Yeah, I got too many cucumbers.
How many cucumbers did you get? Count them.
I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Holy
7, 8,
shit.
9.
Alright, slow down.
I got 9 cucumbers.
Gee whiz.
By
That's
that
a
I
lot
mean
of cucumbers.
slices of cucumber. By that. I also got double meat.
You can have double of my meat.
What the fuck?
Welcome back to the podcast, everybody.
Welcome back to the podcast. Hi.
Are we doing it yet?
Mm-hmm.
Are we?
Yeah, we've been recording since I was talking about double meat.
Yo!
Hey everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Real Talk Podcast.
Episode 10. Let's celebrate episode 10.
We're
did
not
it.
on episode 10.
Shut up.
What episode are we actually on?
12. But
Are we on
like,
12?
Episode 10.5.
10.75.
Yeah, we're celebrating episode 10.75.
I looked at the RSS statistics. A lot of people downloaded the pirate one.
Yeah, let's talk about pirates instead. Fuck it. Pirates Part 2.
I don't know if
Just
there's much
kidding.
more to talk about. Surprisingly, it was a very short period of history that a lot of people didn't like. A lot of people think like, oh, pirates, like, if we're talking golden age of piracy, it was quite short. All right, let me have a quick peek at the statistics here. See if there's anything. The first episode, golden age of piracy, yeah, it did all right. Did okay, which is pretty good. Got an okay amount of views on YouTube as well, which is quite surprising. If you guys don't know, we do post these straight to YouTube as well. So if you wanted to watch them and you don't have like Spotify or you don't have Spotify Premium and you don't want to have ads and things like that, they're on YouTube as well. You're welcome. Jack, what are we talking about today?
John, we're talking about you've sent me too many things, so I don't know.
Sent you 4 things.
Kingdom of Prussia, North German Confederation, German Empire, some pictures and some maps.
That's what we do here. We do talk about maps. If you guys don't know what we do here, first off, a bit of a strange episode to start on. Secondly,
yeah, what are you doing here? Click on episode 1.
Yeah. Secondly, we are a history comedy kind of like chilling kind of podcast. We talk about stuff and things to do with like history and comedy. We do things. We talk about things. We do things. These are important things that we all have to learn. And you know what? You're learning it with us. So,
yay!
A lot of the episodes are me talking for a lot and Jack going,
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So if you guys are into this is the podcast for you. Today we're going to be talking about both the formation of Germany as like the German Empire and kind of like what the German Empire was, because a lot of people know of Germany now, and they know of Germany doing those no-no things in the 30s and 40s.
What were the no-no things, John?
They were things that happened that we'll discuss probably in a pretty deep and heavy episode later in the seasons. Yikes. But Germany was a country before that, and in fact has like a pretty deep, rich, very long, in places quite arduous history. It has quite a difficult story, in places, and I think it'd be really cool if we had a chat about that, see what your opinion on it is, and see what the people at home feel about it.
I know everyone wants to hear my opinion, so
I that's all I want to hear. I want to hear another white guy's opinion. Don't we all?
There's not enough of that.
There isn't. I don't think there is enough white people opinions in the world. I think we really need to fix that. Which is why we're here.
Yeah, let's have more white guys talking about shit.
Actually, let's do that. Let's be white guys and talk about stuff. If you know anything about Germany, Jack, now's the time to tell me. You know anything about Germany?
You know what is bad is that the only thing I know about Germany was the no-no things. The only thing I know about Germany is like Nazis, and that's it.
Okay.
which probably not great
Yeah.
considering that, like I'm not going to walk into Germany and be like, "Are you people all Nazis in here?" In this place?
It's a pretty significant historic stain on the country. There's,
Yeah.
like inevitably it's gonna happen. It's not like the Germans don't know that is like a thing that people know
Yeah.
about them, right? Is there anything else you know?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I know yet about Germany.
Can you make something up while I chew on my sandwich?
So I know that Germany exists.
All right. Anyway, so Germany. So it just looked too appetizing. You know when you take one bite of like a Subway sandwich and you've got the next bite lined up, ready to go.
Yeah, that double meat.
Yeah, yeah, the
That
double
meat lined up.
You got the double meat ready to go,
primed and ready. Yeah,
you just need to take that double meat in your mouth.
All right, hold on.
We're talking about
I was making innuendos and you would...
What do you mean?
I was like, oh yeah, double meat, like whatever, and then you're like, yeah, and then you take that meat in your mouth, you dirty whore.
Hey man, look, you're just hearing what you want to hear, okay?
You're right. Anyway.
So Germany, let's cast our minds back a bit. So if you guys don't know, I normally give Jack the content we're talking about before we actually start talking, which means that he'll have like a general, like a map or an idea of kind of what we're talking about. Sometimes when we do it in person, he has a map in front of him. However, obviously you guys at home don't have that, but you do have the luxury of being able to pause and Google things as we go.
Especially when driving.
So make sure you whip out your phone, let go of the wheel, hold the phone,
because you can type quicker with
and then type up the Kingdom of Germany, but you need to translate it into German to Google it. Okay, so you need to make sure you go to Google Translate, you type in Kingdom of Germany, copy that, then paste it into the search bar, then click on either the Wikipedia page or the German government website on their history. So if you could do that right now while you're driving on the highway, thanks.
If you're still driving and you haven't crashed, turn left.
Right now.
Anyway, yeah.
So, Germany, let's cast our minds back. So we're going back in time.
Yay.
Woo. This is us going back in time.
That is what this podcast is about.
Woo. Actually, oh my god, wait.
The fucking place.
Wait, I'm an idiot. No, we're not casting our minds back yet. We need a quick update. We need a quick a quick Helldivers update.
Oh my god.
Hang on.
Is that going to become a part of it until Helldivers like stops becoming so popular?
I'm just whipping up the music. Hang on.
Yep.
All right. The music's played. Okay, guys. So quick Helldivers 2 update. The automatons were actually pushed out of the galaxy. We took all their sectors. Malevolent Creek was finally relieved. We did it, boys. Victory was ours, right? All of the automaton fighters went over to fight the bugs. Bugs get pushed back 2 sectors. We're living. We're doing great. But Joel, the sneaky bastard, sniffing around. What does he do? Turns out the automatons that we fought were just a scouting party. And we actually just lost 4 sectors to the automatons coming back in, invading in another sector and hitting Cyberstan straight away. Cyberstan, as we all know, all of us Helldivers, avid Helldiver players, as we all know, Cyberstan being the place where the automatons were originally built by the cyborgs. They've now retaken that planet, and they're pushing straight towards Earth. Some people think they're pushing towards the creek, but I think it's towards Earth, but we'll see. That's not going great. Pretty bad. Not going to lie. Looking a bit spicy right now. They did give us a cape for all the people who fought on Malevolent Creek, though, so that's pretty dope.
Yeah, you showed me.
Yeah, they gave us a cape, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it's not going great. The community are rallying back to retake those sectors, but again, we're on a 2-front war, and there's more signs that the third enemy, the Illumina, are going to appear very soon. So we're really going to be on the back foot. So if you haven't already, join the fight. Get some percentages on those planets. We need them down. We need the robots out of the way. We need the bugs out of the way. Because when the Illuminati show, we're screwed, boys. All right? We're talking like force powers and all sorts, okay? Anyway, that was your Helldivers 2 update.
Are you going to play the music again?
I'm playing the music. All right, there you go. Music played. All right, guys. Kingdom of Prussia time.
So stupid.
Kingdom of Prussia time. Woo! Prussia.
You know, this went from being such a good podcast. This is like the worst podcast.
What do you mean?
We're just all over the fucking place.
We just give the Helldivers 2 updates. Bum, 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 bum. You know? Bum, bum. You know that one?
Yep.
No?
Yeah, no, I do. Because I heard it. I heard it last time. I didn't hear it this time. So I just had to wait until you started talking again.
All right. Here we go. So, Germany started as a small state called Prussia. Now, let me see if I can find that on one of the maps I've sent you, Jack. So, in the Kingdom of Prussia Wikipedia page I've sent you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see the map on the right side underneath the national anthem? Underneath the national anthem. So the little bit that's disconnected on the right there.
Am I looking at the 1871?
You're looking at the earliest one, the 1714 one.
The disconnected part
on
the right?
On the right, yeah. So that's where Prussia started. That's a state called Königsberg. It's actually owned by Russia now, like now, in modern times. Yeah, they took it after World War II. As like an insult to Germany, because it's like where Germany started, and they were like, well, we're taking it now, which is interesting. But either way, so that's where Germany started. This was around the time of the Holy Roman Empire, which was a very loosely managed group of hundreds of subcultures and states within North and South Germany. Generally controlled by Southern Germans. Very rarely would Northern Germans become emperors and stuff. So there was always that. That's why nowadays you see the separation between things like being Austrian and Southern German and Northern German.
Right.
It's always been kind of like a split. Especially now we see more of a split between West and East Germany because of the Cold War. But back in the day, or I say back in the day, but back then it was very much like a North versus South thing. Now it's kind of like an East versus West. But yeah, back then, Prussia was like a small state. They were very well known for their like military ideas. So all the way back from the start. Let me just get that out of the way. All the way back from the start.
Does this keep happening?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, it happens to me as well. I've been like fine, and then I'm like, then we start the podcast, and I'm like,
dude,
I need to yawn.
We got tattoos today. I got a duck in a bucket on my arm, and now now I'm tired, man. So Frederick the First, he shows up. He's like, "What's up? Wagwan, my slimes. It's me, your boy, Frederick the First."
That was the first usage of the phrase.
Of Wagwan my slimes, yeah. He was like, Wagwan my slimes, what's happening, my drillers? Let's kick some ass. And the state of Brandenburg, which is of the disconnected bit, to the left of the disconnected bit, the bit that's like all connected together, that was the state of Brandenburg. They were another state in the HRE, in the Holy Roman Empire. And then Prussia, which was that little Königsberg area, they were actually a sub-state of Poland and broke free. So they broke free from what at the time was the Commonwealth of Poland-Lithuania, which was a huge state, massive.
Is that the whole area that's around it? That's like
yeah. So that massive area, that's what Poland-Lithuania used to be. It was like a combined state.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really big. We'll talk about that at some point. Very interesting. Not many people know it, but Poland-Lithuania used to own all that. Prussia was like a vassal under them. Prussia broke free. Unified with Brandenburg through like marriage and stuff, and then they created the first like in the Holy Roman Empire kingdom. So how it worked in the Holy Roman Empire is it was the emperor, and then dukedoms, and then counts, and then free cities. There were no kings. It was the emperor, and that was it. Right? Now the Prussians were actually the first kingdom to be within the Holy Roman Empire. Now, this happened around the time that Protestantism began to become a thing. Um, Protestant was like a different form of Christianity.
And
So
that's like under the umbrella
of Christianity, yeah, because Christianity
yeah.
is just the belief in Christ.
Yeah.
And then there's different
The
forms of that.
Catholicism and
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. That's so Catholicism's obviously the one with the papacy. Protestantism was the one done by Martin Luther, who believed that the church were like I want to say it was that he believed the church were really corrupt and just using God as a way to like trick people. He was the first person to translate the Bible from Latin because it was only in Latin up to this point. He translated it from Latin to German and then would print all the pages out and stick them around the city of Berlin. Really forward thinking at the time. Although, yes, it was just creating another form of religion, he did create that rift which allowed people to separate themselves from religion to be considered learnt. They didn't have to follow the Catholic Church to be smart or to be able to read the Bible and things like that. And it meant that people didn't rely on priests so much because it meant that they were able to read their own Bible and things like that.
And priests are going to lose their business.
Yeah, oh no,
being priests.
Not the Catholic Church. Anyway, so that's kind of popping up around here. Germany was one of the big areas where Protestantism became like a big thing. Later, the UK and Netherlands were also two places where it was a big thing as well. So, in the span of like kind of like 50 or so, 70 or so years, Prussia grew. There was the 30 Years' War, which was the War of Religion, where in the HRE, the Austrians were trying to suppress the growth of Protestantism in the empire. And they declared like a war on like one of the Protestants, and then all of the other Protestants joined. So like Sweden was there, Germany was there. There were some like Dutch people. A lot of the counts in Germany were there. It was like the first kind of time where North versus South became like a big thing in Germany.
Okay.
So this is around the time that we see like Prussia grow. They took a lot of land from like Poland and some from Austria and that kind of thing.
But also like, is that Russia that's taking like shit tons of land as well? Is that what I'm seeing?
Oh yeah, Russia got very big.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I was like, oh shit.
This was around the time that like Russia began its European expansion as opposed to just going east. Because it had already hit the Pacific at this point. So it was like, well, what do we do now?
Yeah, we go west.
Yeah, we get west time.
We take the land next to us.
Yeah, exactly. So Frederick was like, I'm the king now, and we're a kingdom. So what are you going to do about that? And then, like, the Austrians were like, oh, we can't do anything.
Oh, shucks.
So then there was the 30 Years' War where they all fought, like, blah, 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 shooting each other, blah, 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 shooting. You know, there was all that kind of stuff. And then, very fun times, the German kingdom under Frederick II, also known as Frederick the Great, who was like the goat of like
Frederick the Goat.
He was like the goat of Prussia. He was the man who I want to say he was the one that dismantled the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. He was like the big guy. So there around this period, Austria lost its king. They didn't know who to put on top. So there was like a lot of fighting and stuff. And pretty much Frederick was like, I'm going to take Silesia. Which, let me see if I can... So, how can I show this, obviously? Do you see the... Yeah, I can do that. I will do that. You know what? I will do that. You're right. Doing that. Alright, look at this. You see my mouse?
Yes.
This bit.
Right.
So, northern Austria-Hungary. This is Austria-Hungary here in the orange. For everyone following at home, we're at about the late, let's say 1800 flat. If you look at 1800 flat, above Austria-Hungary, here's like Bohemia. It kind of sticks out a bit. Above that, there's like a little slivery bit that borders Russia and Prussia, and that's Silesia. So the Germans took Silesia. and there was like a war between Austria-Hungary about it. Obviously, they weren't super pleased with that.
Yeah,
Like,
I've noticed a
why?
trend of that where like when somebody takes land and they're like, "Hey man, the heck?"
Hey, hold up! You can't do that.
Hmm.
I think we will.
Yeah, right.
So Austria. So Frederick was like, "Give me the land, and we won't fight." And then Frederick was like, "I'm going to take it anyway," and took it. And then the Austrians were like, "Whoa, hold up!" and then started fighting. Frederick then decided, "I'm just going to take all of Bohemia now because you've pissed me off." He didn't take it, but he did win Silesia officially, diplomatically after that. So it was like he annexed Silesia, and then Austria was like, "Oh, we're going to fight you for that," and then started fighting them. And then Prussia was like, "Well, now we're just going to take all of Bohemia." And then France and the UK were like, "You can't do that." And so he was like, "Fine, I'll just take Silesia." And they were like, "Okay, you can have that. That's it. You can keep that."
The referee comes out.
Yeah, it was like, yellow card. Give that back.
I was like, hold on a minute, you can't do that. Go to the sin bin.
Yeah, exactly. So, this was kind of goated in the 7 Years' War, right? Which was, this was the 7 Years' War was kind of like the first what I would consider global conflict, right?
Uh-huh.
So this was the first war where the colonies were also a battleground. So there wasn't just combat in Europe; there was combat in sections of Asia. There was also combat in the Americas. So there was a lot of fighting. Now, the 7 Years' War was, I want to say, the same time that France was kicked out of the US. Yeah, it was. So the 7 Years' War was where France got kicked out of the US, which then in turn led to the American Revolution, and that all started because Austria tried to retake Silesia.
Shit.
So Austria tried to take a state off Germany, which then pulled in the UK and France and Spain, which then pulled in their colonies, which in turn meant that the UK was able to annex French and Spanish colonies, which later meant that the taxes that they had to pay for because they had no money left after the war, the US were like, "Fuck you. You're taxing us. We're going to become free." So that's like the full circle. Strange, right? So the Prussian army had to fight Austria, Russia, France, and Sweden all at the same time.
They just had like their hands on their foreheads while they're like swinging,
and they won, which was like the first sign that like Prussia was a bit of a military goat.
Dude, Austria, Russia, France, Sweden got fucking swirly.
Yeah, they literally, like, he grabbed them by their underwear straps and hung them on the hooks where you would hang your coat. That's where they were like, "Eat this, fuckhead."
Stuffed him in a locker.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. So, then Prussia, like, took a tiny bit of land, also bought land off places. They also purchased land.
Well, that's wholesome.
Yeah.
Hey, they didn't fight for it. They just...
that's true, I suppose. That's cool paying. What's this guy doing? Not in formation there, big man.
He got lost.
He did. It was like, where am I? So the Prussians took a lot of land. They then proceeded to dismantle the Commonwealth. And then the big boy happened. Big Napoleon fucking rears his fat little head out of France.
The guy with like the afro and vote for Pedro shirt? Crazy.
Yeah.
He was alive back then?
Yeah, who? So anyway, in 14 years, Napoleon Bonaparte not only subjugated Spain and Italy within French land, but also all of the, what's it called? Benelux? So like Belgium, Netherlands. Let me show you this. I'm going to show you this map, right? Yep. So France took all of this, 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 and here.
Holy shit.
France owned a lot of land. In 14 years, France practically owned the entire continent of Europe, like the greater continent of Europe, right? In doing this, they created the not the North German, they created the Confederation of the Rhine. Let me see if I have a nice little picture of the Confederation of the Rhine. For all of the people at home, the Confederation of the Rhine, the river that runs through Western Germany is called the Rhine. It's kind of like one of the biggest areas that consider that like borders Germany. That's kind of how you'd tell like the German border is the River Rhine, kind of like a big thing in their culture. And the French created the Confederation of the Rhine, which I don't know. Would be surprised if there wasn't a picture of it, but does it say it in the continental system? Or the first confederation? Wow, as if it doesn't have a link to the Confederation of the Rhine. I suppose this works. You see this green here?
Yeah.
That was all united under France.
Oh.
So this was French land here that has this little border around it. This bit is Prussia, this little like wishbone shaped like
the crocodile.
Yeah, that's eating Poland. Always been a German tradition.
A metaphor for life.
Always been a German tradition. If Poland's there, it isn't. So this is like, so this was Prussia, and then this was the Confederation of the Rhine. All of these states in here, all of this space was like hundreds of different little states. It's always been loads of little states. The Germans were able to unify like a section of it under Prussia, or the Prussians were able to unify it under like a little bit.
Yeah.
But were never able to like fully do it. And then the French came in and made this big confederation. And then the Germans were like, "Oh fuck, man, we're getting our ass handed to us here." They didn't know how to fix it. And then comes the War of the Sixth Coalition. Yeah, War of the Sixth Coalition, which was when the Battle of Waterloo, and they defeated Napoleon for the last time. Yippee! Go everyone! The Prussians were there, the British were there. We did it. Go team! High five!
And so that's when Napoleon said, "And I would have got away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids."
Yeah,
that's what he said.
That's what he said. That's
the only thing I know. Sorry, I forgot to mention that part.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you did know about that bit actually. Yeah. So
I was there.
Were you? You were there.
I almost laughed, and then I just like bit my lip, so I didn't laugh after saying I was there in fucking 18 whatever.
All right, so Prussia got a bunch of land for this for winning, for helping fight the French in the deal when Germany was kind of given back to the Germans. It gained a bunch of land back. It also annexed a huge amount of Poland, because at the time Poland was like under French rule. It did get a bunch of Saxony. It also got a bunch of the Rhine as well, the Rhineland. So it got a bunch of stretch out there. So now it's pretty big. It's stretched, as they say, uninterrupted. So there's no little states between its borders like there was in that first picture. Yeah. It's now like a bit of a stretched image around this time. It's doing pretty good. It's doing all right. Let me see. Is there a good picture of it? Yeah, here we are. Look.
Oh yeah. Wow.
So it's this big bit, and then it stretches around here, and then it's this big bit here. So it got bigger. It's getting there. It's getting there. Yeah. There's still loads of little states in here, but it's getting towards the Germany that we're kind of like aiming to talk about.
Yeah.
All right. Napoleon's dead. What do we do now? That's right. We kill each other. So here it comes.
Damn it. You always say that's right and then say something that I did not expect.
Here it comes. That's right. The Brothers' War. So what do they call the Brothers' War? Well,
that's
pretty
what my
much
called it when me and my brother.
I'm going to show you this. Right? Oh. So, you know how this whole time I've been saying it's North versus South? It really came to kind of fruition here.
Yeah.
So the Prussians in, let's have a look if I can get a year for you. 1864. Yeah. So mid 1800s. The Prussians were like, we're really big. And we have a lot of northern German allies, right? So all the light blue here is northern German allies. If you just look up Prussian-Austrian War at home, you'll know. Pretty much all of northern Germany, of like the German Empire, fought southern Germany and Austria. And it was pretty much like a 1v1 between the two, because Prussia were like, I want control of Germany. And the Austrians, up until this point, obviously carrying on from the Holy Roman Empire, had always really been in charge of the German region. Because up until really, like, Austrians were still, like, Germanic people. You know, they were just in charge, you know?
Yeah.
And they kind of ruled the land. So when this now big, quite scary military power came into control of large swathes of land, Austria was threatened. And Austria-Hungary was like, no, we are not fighting. Oh, we're not giving you this land. We're not ceding our control over these southern Germans. So the northern Germans went, okay, then we'll take it. And they fought Austria. It was called the Brothers' War because they were both considered Germanic. And it's like, obviously, like two brothers fighting. Now, after this war, that's when the North German Confederation happened. So here we are, post-war with Austria. All of this red bit is now one country.
Wow.
We've done it, boys. It took 100 and something years and defeating Napoleon 6 times and Austria, but we're here. We did it. Big boys, right? Northern Germany. We've done it. It's called the North German Confederation. It was only around for what? 7 years before it became Germany. No, it's all right. It got bigger. It didn't get smaller. It's okay. But pretty much what they did was they approached the northern states after defeating Austria, and they were like, join our confederation.
Join our clan.
Join our clan. Put XX_Germ at the front of the start of your name. Germ. So they did it, and then there was like they pretty much did like a little it's weird. He pretty much, this guy, he went around, what was his bloody name? It was something silly. Bismarck.
McBobble Pop.
No, Bismarck, right?
Okay.
Bismarck went around to all the northern German states and was like, join Germany, we'll protect you, you'll have like representation in the union and stuff. And everyone was like, fine. When Austria lost control of Bavaria and stuff, because Austria, like so this yellow bit down here, this is Bavaria. Now, when you think of Germany, you know, all those stereotypes of Germany, you think of like the clogs and the like stupid outfit they wear and they slap their knees and all that kind of thing, right? That's not like super German. That's more like southern German. So that's very like Bavarian. That's what you would consider Bavarian.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right? So Bavaria is Germany. Of course, it's in Germany. They are Germanic people. They are German. However, when we think of the German stereotypes that are that stereotype, it's very much Southern German and almost Austrian. That's why when you see like Austrian stereotypes, they're almost identical. Because Southern German and Austrian stereotypes they are the same. Yeah. Because for a very, very long time, Southern Germany, Bavaria especially, was part of kind of under Austria, right? Yeah. It wasn't in Austria-Hungary, but it was like under their thumb. They were like fully controlled by Austria, you know, like a proxy state. And only when Germany were able to annex it after the war, or not straight away, they do it later, but only after this like Northern German Confederation thing was it ever considered that Bavaria could be part of Northern Germany. So that happened anyway. So they're big boys. They constructed their own little government, which was super cute. Yeah, so they removed all the borders so everyone could move in and out on their own, obviously, because it's no longer
a bunch of countries.
It's one big country. So all the borders went down. They got like the same passports. They also gave equal rights to all religions, which is super dope.
This is pretty cute.
Yeah, right? Super dope. Also, one of the most scary military powers on the planet. Great.
Yeah,
Yeah, doing great. So let's have a look at the political system. I don't know how it works. Wow, this is confusing. So they gave anyone who is 25 years old can be voted locally to join the state government that reports to the Bundesrat and the Reichstag, which then reports to the Chancellor. So the Chancellor is like the president of Germany.
Oh, like from Friends.
Yep. So Chandler from Friends reports to fucking Wilhelm the First.
Yeah, I just want to apologize for what happened back there.
That was dreadful. So at this point, right, bit strange, Northern German Confederation is not an empire. It's also not a kingdom.
Oh.
It's a presidency.
Oh.
And the president happens to be Wilhelm I, King of Prussia.
Huh?
So the King of Prussia, who
Yep.
was the King of Prussia leading up to this,
Yep.
when the Northern German Confederation was created,
Mm-hmm.
became the president of the Northern German Confederation, and Bismarck, the guy who went around and convinced all the states during the Austrian War to join this union, became the Chancellor. The Chancellor being like the Prime Minister to the President's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah? So that happened. You can see why this only lasted a few years. This government system makes no fucking sense at
Yeah.
all. But yeah, bit strange. For 7 years, Germany was a presidency under a king who was also an emperor previously. Anyway,
Jesus. I'm dizzy.
anyway, moving on to the fun bit. Oh, I should never really say it's fun. Northern Germany, right? No. So Northern Germany, it does all these things. It helps its people. It begins to create this idea of a unified Northern German nationalism. As in, like, this kind of idea that we're all one people.
Yeah.
Because for a long time, as I've explained plenty of times before, Germany was not one people. It was loads of split. It was North and South, all that kind of thing. The North German Confederation, its whole point in its being created was the idea that to show the world that you can no longer bully and take areas of Germany from Germans, you know? Because there were like sections of Northern Germany owned by Great Britain for a long time. Southern Germany was owned by Austria-Hungary. Eastern Germany was owned by Russia. Western Germany by France. They were really sick of just being fucking bullied and pulled apart constantly. So the Northern German Confederation created this idea that they were one unified people and that's how they will always be. And so they built this idea of nationalism and national pride and that kind of thing, which I personally think is like a really good way. It's like a good thing. They were an area of the world that for a long time was abused by other sections of the world and like pulled apart. And so they unified it themselves. They were like, we're Germans who unified a German state, and that's how it'll always be, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I think
all
it's
the
pretty
nerds
cool.
turn into the chess club.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna take that back just so they don't like kill me.
Yeah.
Oh wait, they're gone now, aren't they?
Who, the German Empire?
Like, kind of.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. Now they're in the late 1800s. There was a war with France. So the French owned an area right here on this map. It's called Alsace-Lorraine. Okay.
I've heard of that.
Yes, you would have heard of that because it was a big, contentious problem for all the way through the 1900s. Both World War I and II had Alsace-Lorraine as like a pretty critical point of contention. So, Alsace-Lorraine, as per the name, sounds pretty French, but also sounds very German.
Yeah.
The problem is it's both.
Oh no.
So if we look at it here, as you can see, it's right on the border.
Yeah.
The French took it from a German state initially. It wasn't always French. However, this is a good image to show.
I was gonna say, is that
the green is German.
Yeah.
The orange is French. And the purple and blue are like a mix of both. So they're like Luxembourg and Dutch and things like that. So as you can see, it's split. It's a state that's split culturally, dialect-wise, everything like that. Now,
it's also a pretty small state. That's
it's also like right on the border between two massive superpowers. Now we're talking like the biggest, most like feared built like empire that could have existed in like Central Europe. By the way, Central Europe was not only the birthplace of things like Protestantism, it was also the birthplace of mass production. It was the birthplace of mass printing for like paper and newspapers and things like that. It was the birthplace of things like centralized like currency systems. So whereas the world, like everyone around the world, kind of used their own thing, Germany were like, we're using our own money now, and you guys are just gonna have to use that. And they're like, oh, okay. All of these states on their own have been like collectively quite powerful. So there was never really a point where these states weren't like strong, especially areas like Brandenburg and Saxony and Silesia. Very like there's a lot of resources in these areas. Now, over time, of course, because like different states have owned them, different levels of investment has been made in them. For instance, Silesia has a huge amount of coal. Now, around the 1800s, I don't know if you know much about the Industrial Revolution, but coal was pretty important. Also, a fuck ton of steel and metal over in the Rhineland area. Again, very important. Yeah. So Germany just turbocharges its industry. Like, it becomes the biggest industrial powerhouse on the continent within 7 years. Overtaking France, Austria, Germany, Russia, sorry. No one is able to really stand up to their industrial power. They're also in such a good place where they're able to not only trade in the Baltic, but out into the Atlantic at the same time.
Yeah, right.
Means that they're practically one of Russia's and Sweden's only trade partners. Having a land border with Austria, sure, they fought in the past, but it means they're able to import and export through land. They also have a land border with the Dutch, with the Belgians, who at this time were also colonial powers. It's like a lot of big things. Like, everything lined up perfectly for Germany to become as powerful as it did.
Which is funny, because I feel like I've never heard of Germany being like a big industrial powerhouse type thing.
I mean, they still are in Europe. I want to say they have one of the highest... Let's have a look.
Well, maybe it's because I watch either too much or not enough Peaky Blinders, where I'm like, oh yeah, industrial times. I just think of like Peaky Blinders.
So Germany's one of the leading manufacturer production economies and the third largest exporter on the planet. Oh, wow. So it's the third largest in-house manufacturing and exporter on the planet. That'll include like Germany probably has a higher internal manufacture and export than like India, for instance, who has the second largest population on the planet.
Yeah.
And that's now. Think like back then when it was still like double the size it is now. Like, it is a gigantic state. And this is really around the period where like the British and the French and the Russians are like, guys. So they've become wham. And then why did they I actually don't know why they fought. I know that there was a war with the French, and that's how they took Alsace-Lorraine. I don't know why they fought France for the Alsace-Lorraine.
Is there ever a reason? I feel like people just fight because they got bored.
Maybe.
They were like, yeah, I mean, things are going too well. We need to just like, I'm bored. No Subway Surfers yet. I want to go fight someone. That's pretty much how it was growing up as well. We didn't have Subway Surfers, so people just fought each other.
Have a look. Can you just show me?
It's a bit like that, isn't it? I'm looking at you, just
Oh, here
like
we are.
frantically scrolling.
I found it.
Yo,
Okay. So why did they fight this? Tell me. Why did they fight this?
because French Parliament.
The conflict was caused primarily by the French determination to reassert its dominant position in the continental Europe. Okay. So the Germans were like, we're the big dogs now, and the French were like, no, you're not. And then, yikes, lost really bad. However, apparently Otto von Bismarck did deliberately provoke the French into starting a war, take the L, because they wanted. Because Baden, Württemberg, and Bavaria, which were still separated states, which are these yellow ones.
Yep.
These were still like independent. As I said, they were like southern Germans that weren't taken in the Northern German Confederation. Bismarck wanted to integrate these into the Northern German Confederation, creating the German Empire, and the French were like, don't do that. And the Germans were like, we're going to do it anyway. And they went to do it, and then the French fought them, and the French got their fucking ass handed to them.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah, like absolutely
nothing like declaring war on somebody and then getting fucked up. Like you run in there and throw one punch and then you just get laid out. Like that's awkward.
How long did it take? Was that it 4 months and they lost? What a joke.
Oof. I just say 6 months on the right? Or am I looking at?
Yes, 6 months. That's it. It took 6 months for them to get their ass handed to them.
Oh gosh. Especially after the 7-year war or whatever the fuck. Like, and then being like, yeah, 6 months. Feels bad for that.
Sorry, I had a guest. Yeah, so they lost the war in 6 months. That also led to the first rise in like a communist country, the Paris Commune.
Oh.
So when the French were defeated, the Paris rose up as its own independent country and became the Parisian Commune.
Oh shit.
Which is really funny. They were like a little communist thing in Paris. You know what? It wouldn't be the French losing something if they didn't like instantly get their ass, like if they didn't like have a quick little uprising. I feel like I remember they like before they were destroyed, they really quickly did some stuff. They separated church and state. They added self-policing of rent to a house. They abolished child labor, and they gave the rights to employees to take over the enterprise if it's deserted by its owner. They closed all Catholic churches. And they also did a mix of feminist, socialist, and communist things. This was all changed in the official French constitution before the French were able to then retake the state. And because the French have to get a majority vote to change things, they weren't able to change it back. So the Parisian Commune rose up after this war, after the French got their ass handed to them by the Germans. And then back in the late 1800s, this was before World War One. And then the Parisians rose up and quickly like, quick, change all the laws. And they changed all the laws and then were crushed. But first time we saw a communist country, and they did some good shit. So at least we got something good out of this.
I saw abolishing child labor. That really stood out to me. And I was like, that seems good.
That seems like a good move. I like that move.
I think objectively good.
So the French like collapsed completely. They got their ass handed to them. Paris was under siege for a while. Ram Ranch is under siege.
They don't look like they're under siege.
No, this is Bismarck and just the Emperor of France just having a chat.
Which
is a bit interesting. Oh, shit, they took all the way down here? Oh my god, France was annihilated. Take the L, boys. They're being disarmed. So rough. All right, so the French were disarmed. They got their ass handed to them. Take the L. The Germans took the Rhine. Not the Rhine. The Alsace-Lorraine. Yeah, so they took Alsace-Lorraine in the victory. And united with Bavaria as well. So they took
Oh, nice.
Bavaria and Württemberg, thus forming the German Empire.
Whoa.
So that was like their quick little speed run from the German Empire. They founded it in
Ooh.
1871. Now, what's fucking cool about them founding it in 1871? Wilhelm I, the Emperor of Germany, the one and only Emperor of the German Empire, I think.
Was he the one that came from Prussia? Or am I-
He was Prussian. He was of descendant of that family. Yes.
Oh, okay.
But all of the Prussia is practically Germany. Prussia is,
Yeah.
that's the major state, right?
Well, like, yeah, that's what. Was it like he was the like
he
emperor or
he
whatever
was
of
yeah.
Prussia, and then became
That was the guy that was the president, and then the emperor. Yeah, that guy.
Right.
So when they were invading France, they took the Palace of Versailles, and Wilhelm I goes, "Okay, I'm the emperor now. We're going to unite with southern Germany because France can't stop us, and we're going to take Alsace-Lorraine in this war, and we're going to become massive." So what does he do? He walks into the Palace of Versailles, the palace of the emperors and kings of France. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He walks in there. He goes into what's called the Hall of Mirrors, and he gets crowned in there in the most prestigious palace in all of Europe. He crowns himself Emperor of Germany.
Oh my god.
He is him.
Jesus Christ.
He is him. That man is him, right? Ballsy fucking move, right? Ballsy move. So anyway, Berlin remained the capital of Germany. Germany united. It did some things between 1871 and 1918 when it was obviously dismantled after World War One. So it industrialized, obviously, focusing on coal and iron and steel, like I said. Also one of the biggest exporter of railways around the world, which is really interesting.
I mean, I guess Germany is kind of like pretty central, and I feel like that makes sense for them to be like exporting and stuff like that, right? Because they're so centered that they can send shit out anywhere. Or at least on a map they are.
Yeah, no,
I was like, you could put the map where like America is on the right side of the map and like whatever, but
so let's have a peek. What did they do in 1870? So Germany became involved in colonialism because who in Europe didn't? They claimed pretty much anything that wasn't already taken by the Europeans in Africa, which is why if you have a quick look at this little thing here, they took some land in Africa. Took areas around the Congo. They took, I want to say that's Zambia, but I don't think that's true. I think I'm lying. No, I'm nowhere near. Zimbabwe? Maybe?
yeah, I think that looks right.
Nope.
Oh, nope.
They took Namibia.
Namibia.
Sorry, I apologize. Namibia. They took that region. This was previously owned by the Portuguese. They also then dabbled a little bit in Pacific Islands. They took northern Papua New Guinea, which I was telling Jack is actually really interesting. So they took northern Papua New Guinea, which means, Jack, one of Australia's closest neighbors in the early 1900s was Germany.
Yeah,
isn't that really fucking strange to think of?
Yeah.
So they took northern Papua New Guinea. They took some islands around there. They also took land from China. They took 2 cities, and they also occupied Beijing for a while, which is mental. So they took a city which I think is pronounced Qingdao. It's Qing. It's like this. Felt like that. I think it's pronounced Qingdao, but I'm not 150% sure. But it was like in China. They took land off China, or like a city. Similar to like what Hong Kong and Macau were. They were like colonial cities used for like bouncing trade around and things like that. They were also one of the first states to implement social programs, things like free government medical care, accident insurance, that kind of thing. Nice. Being such like an industrialized state was really important to them. I thought was really interesting. They made good friends with their allies, with their people around them, including repairing the relationship with Austria, becoming very close allies with them both. Germany just really wanted to take colonial land. They wanted to be like a serious contender in Europe,
Yeah.
and they believed that the only way to do that was to obviously take colonial land, which I mean wasn't completely false. Definitely the best way to do that. Dope picture. That kind of thing. So that worked for them.
Mm.
Oh, this is cool. This is there's a postage stamp from the Caroline Islands, which are here above Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
So there's a little stamp that would have been sent from there, which is German, which is really cool. So the Germans had the largest economy on the planet by 1913. They had the largest army on the planet by one of them, other than like Russia, by 1913. They also hated Catholics like a lot. They really hated Catholics.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was that. I mean, that's Germany, and then obviously World War One happened.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I was gonna be like, oh, why did it all fall apart then? But I'm gonna guess
So
it's because of World
yeah,
War
so
One, which we'll
World War
talk about.
One. No, we can talk about it now. So like World War One, obviously one of the most horrific periods of human history. Resulted in what, over 20 million dead on both sides, or like both sides combined, 20 million dead.
Mm.
Which is just a horrific amount of people dying, like 20 million people.
Yeah.
It's an unimaginable amount of death. Absolutely awful. Um, this Germany like rapidly militarized,
Hmm.
um, trying to catch up with the UK because at the time the British were the only people who were able to even closely face like Germany.
Yeah.
And that was purely
Yeah.
because of like the British Navy. So the British had developed things called dreadnoughts, which were like early battleships, which is such a sick name.
Mm.
Dreadnought, so cool. They developed dreadnoughts, which were early battleships, and the Germans didn't have that. They were like trying to navally beat each other. Around this period of time, there hadn't been a major war in Europe post the French-German War. So for about 40 years, there hadn't been a major war, 30 years.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's really all there was to do back then. There was no TikTok or Subway Surfers, so why not
Exactly.
kill each other? And the in 1914, the Austrians declared war on Serbia because a Serbian nationalist, quote unquote, terrorist, killed the uh, king or the emperor of Austria's son
Ooh.
in an attack. So a Serbian terrorist, quote unquote, killed the Austrian emperor's son. Austria declared war on Serbia. The Russians were allied with Serbia because they're both Orthodox countries. So the Russians joined Serbia, calling in France because France were part of their alliance at the time. So they called
Mm.
in France, which means France and Russia were both at war with Austria as well as Serbia. Then the Germans were called into war by the Austrians. And then the Germans declared war on the Belgians and the Dutch because they believed that they could sneak around the defensive line around Alsace,
Hmm.
and go through Belgium and then attack France from the north, like they did in World War Two. It didn't work in World War One because no one's that fast and it was all trenches. It was very slow.
Mm.
By declaring war on Belgium, which was protected by the UK joined, and that then meant that it was Germany and Austria against Russia, France, and the UK. Later in the war, the Ottoman Empire joined, which is modern Turkey. And then the Italians joined on the Allies side, even though they were allied with Germany initially, but didn't join the war on Germany's side and switch sides. That's World War One.
Wow.
I know that off the top of my head. It's very difficult. It's not difficult. It's just fucking such a stupid mix. But pretty much like the Germans defeated the Russians, sort of. They didn't really. They just rammed their heads into them until the Russians fell apart to a communist uprising. That's when the Soviet Union first appeared, was just before the end of World War Two, or World War One. It
Yeah.
was 1917 was when the like big uprising was that like pitched the Bolsheviks against the White Army. That's like around the time that like the royal family were like killed and all that kind of thing. So Russia surrendered, releasing a lot of like Ukraine, Belarus, the Baltic regions, that kind of thing. Germany then switched its focus over to France, but with the joining of America and fresh troops arriving on the front, the Germans collapsed under economic pressure. And then once they collapsed under economic pressure, they surrendered, and their entire country was ripped to shreds. The German unified state was nothing anymore. Pulled apart and became the Weimar Republic. So Germany went from let's have a peek. Let's see if I can get some pictures here. So Germany went from this to this, which isn't like a huge change, but they lost Alsace-Lorraine. They lost land to the Belgians. They lost land to Denmark. They lost land to Poland, which was reformed. Yeah. They lost land to Czechoslovakia. And I think that was it. There were also. Did
Poland actually just like disappear for a little bit?
Yeah,
it was still.
No, it was systematically annexed by the armies of Prussia and Russia and Austria.
Yeah, right.
They all marched in at the same time and drew on a line on the map where each one will get it, and it was just split apart like that.
Yeah.
Poland has been through the ringer, man. So Germany kept still like a decent amount of land, but its empire was ripped apart. All its colonial land was gone. It lost all its colonial land, obviously. So it lost all its colonial land. Somehow a section of Sweden has sunk in the time.
Yeah, I just saw that.
It took for also this island shuffled a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it lost a lot of its land. It also was forced to pay, I want to say, like a stupid amount of money. So this, once Germany was ripped apart after World War One, this was around the time that we see the rise in like Adolf Hitler and things like that. A country that was suffered from things like hyperinflation. It's crazy. It was more expensive to buy bread then than it would be to buy a house now or something.
Yeah, I remember.
And
about that.
Yeah, people would like burn the cash they were being paid
for fire.
For fire, right? Yeah, because it was worth nothing. It was worth literally nothing. Crazy. Dope flag though. Holy shit! Look at that bad boy. Its army was dismantled. We're talking about the most prided like army in Europe at the time. Its army was dismantled to nothing. It had 100,000 men and like no boats left and wasn't allowed planes. 100,000 men sounds like a lot, but it really wasn't. There were constant mutinies. There was consistent uprisings. The government literally just didn't work. There were sections of the country that were annexed and like literally managed for years. So not only was Alsace-Lorraine actually annexed by the French, but there was also states above it in the Rhinish area that was the largest exporter of coal in Europe that was occupied by the French for a good 20 years afterwards. So the French were not also they didn't also just take land like off them, but they also occupied areas that would have meant that the Germans could make some money, which they couldn't. Yeah, here we go. Hyperfixation was so strong that bread rose from 3 Reichsmarks, which is the money, to 80 billion Reichsmarks to buy a loaf of bread.
So, like, why though?
So
why did it go up?
This is how it works, right? Germany was so broke because they had to pay these. They had to pay what's called reparations.
Yeah,
which is when generally after a war, especially during World War 1 and 2, there were countries that had to pay money to other countries as like a sorry. Like, here's the money for your damages.
Yeah.
Right? So Germany had to pay such a obscenely high amount of money that they were able to pay with the industry that Germany had. You've also got to remember, Germany lost 5 million people. Like men, young men. There was no one to work.
Yeah, right.
Their economy was in shambles. All the factories were empty. Not only that, but now their country was ripped into shreds, which means families were separated. The nation didn't know what it governed and what it didn't. It was also forced to pay back all this money to the UK, to France, to Belgium, to the Netherlands, to to Russia, to America, like it had so many countries it needed to pay money to. It was able to cover the interest on the money it owed, and that was it. That was the entire country's like budget gone on the interest alone, right? To keep it at the same number. So what it did to fix that is to pay, because it needed to pay the people, right? Like the people working, which means that how it works is obviously a government will purchase items from privately owned companies like coal and steel and then export it if it's not government owned, which at the moment now, especially these coal mines and stuff, are not government owned, which means that it had to purchase the coal to then go into the factories to produce items to then be sold, and that's how they make money. So the government had to pay for these coal and stuff. How do you pay for that with no money? So you print more money. So the government continuously printed money over and over and over and over and over again. And it's like like a super rare car, how it goes up in price because there's very few of them. Yeah. Same thing with money. If there's less of the money in circulation, it's worth more.
Yeah, supply and demand.
Exactly. If there's less of the money in the circulation, it's worth more. And if you have a currency that's worth more, then things are easier to buy because, like, for instance, bread could have gone down, like, was 4 Reichsmarks because the Reichsmark was an expensive, less common currency than, like, let's say, the franc in France next door, right? So it cost a less, but when they kept printing more money, it meant that it cost more to buy the bread, in turn having to hike prices up, which means that the economy needs to print more money to buy the bread so that the people can get the money to buy the bread. And it's a circle. It was a pit. It was just going round and round and round until the Nazi party took control and kind of just like wiped the slate clean and went, all right, this is what we're doing. And they laid it all out. They were like, this is what we're doing. This is how it's going to work. We're going to rebuild the industry. And they did and stuff. But that's... Germany collapsed under its own imperialist wants and needs and desires. And then it became the rump state during the... I don't know. It became like a rump state in the 20s and the 30s, and then obviously in the 40s, Nazi Germany. But that was Germany. That was Germany. It had a rise that came about through not only military conquest, but like unification through idealism and nationalism and pride, and also a fight for survival against like the like Napoleon. Also like the Austrians and the Russians and all that kind of thing. Then it just kept winning and it kept winning and it kept winning, and it was like, we can win all of the time, and then it lost, and when it lost hard, and that's how it became the state that we all kind of generally remember Germany being in history. So it wasn't always that state though. It was once a
cool
proud,
like a better side of them.
Yeah, well, better quote unquote, but like it was a, it was a state that at the time wasn't known for what it is now known.
Yeah, I think it's always cool because, like, for example, what I know is usually just like, Russia, big place, Germany, Nazi Germany, like that's pretty much the only thing I know about the shit, and that's just because like that's stuff that you kind of get taught but not really, where it's like it's cool to see that like where all of the stuff comes from, because it's like they didn't just plop into the earth as being Nazi Germany. It was like they came from somewhere. And so that's why I like this podcast, because it's cool to see where the things actually came from.
I like to make a point of that. Obviously I wanted to talk about the formation of Germany, but we had to get there first, we had to get there first. But I was thinking maybe we could talk about Poland next week, because Poland, I would argue, has probably had one of the roughest times of like what is now considered a semi-major European country ever. The poor thing didn't even it existed, and then it existed really big, and then it didn't exist at all. And that's generally how Poland's history goes, unfortunately.
Feels like that's how everyone's history is going.
Yeah, well,
Like,
that's how. Do you know what? There's one country in Europe that hasn't had such an awful time of it. That's Great Britain. At no point have I looked at the UK and gone, "Man, you had a rough time existing, didn't you?" Nope, nope. Easiest
they were
fucking
getting
smooth
fucked by the
sailing.
Vikings and stuff, though, right?
I mean, like barely, but that wasn't even like Great Britain. They
Oh,
they
yeah,
weren't
that was just,
even
like England, right?
Yeah, not even that. They weren't even like. I mean, they weren't even like what was considered English. They were Britons then.
Ah.
You know, they weren't even what is now English, because English was the mixture of Northern French Normandy and what was at the time Brittonic Danish, and that all mixed to become like the culture that we have now. That's like you know, it's like an ancient peoples that suffered in the land that I existed in, but I wouldn't say that like Saxon England is like I don't think back on Saxon England and go, oh, my country suffered. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. We were the largest, and like realistically, I've always been the largest like colonial empire on the planet, other than like Spain for a little bit. I'd say Spain was there first, but you know, like it's not. It didn't have that kind of like fight for survival. It was never pressured. Right. It never, at least in like semi-modern history, you know, past like 1600. There was never a point where the British were like really threatened.
Oh, the Great Depression. That's what it was called. Fuck. I was like, the whole time you're explaining it to me, I was like, I remember learning about this in school, and I couldn't remember what the Great Depression was called.
Yeah, but that's obviously the name for the period of time where Germany was. That's after the stock market crashed. So like not only did Germany have a pretty rough time, but everyone did, but Germany had a really rough time because they had already been printing money, but it just got so much worse.
Yeah. Like, hey, we have all of this money, but it doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it's pretty rough.
We got no toys to spend it on.
No, not the toys. What do they have toys wise back then?
Socks.
Clogs.
Yeah.
They had clogs made out of money because they couldn't afford anything else.
They got the Post Malone Crocs.
The Post Malone Crocs. Yo, they got the drip. Fucking Wilhelm I showing up in the drip.
Yeah.
All right, kings. All right, queens. All right, everything outside and in between. That's it. That's Germany. Did you have any closing thoughts?
End of real talk.
Did you have any closing thoughts? Anything you want to share an opinion on?
It's usually always the same thing. I'm like, holy shit, like something happened before the stuff that I know, and like I like learned shit and stuff, which is it's cool. Like I feel like I probably say it every week or every episode where I'm like, I learned something today, which is always cool because I like learning and I hate being a stupid dumb idiot.
Germany's a cool place. It's
you're supposed to say, Jack, you're not a stupid dumb idiot.
It's got like a nice mix of cultures.
John, you didn't say it.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, so we're gonna end.
Guys, wait.
No, please. All right, we're gonna end it here. We love you all. Thank you so much for listening. And if you haven't already, we are on YouTube. It's a little difficult to find us because we don't have a huge pushing. But if you click the link that is in the description of Spotify, I think. Is that a
probably.
thing?
There's a Spotify description.
There's a Spotify description in there. There's like a link and stuff to where you need to go. We love you guys, and if you haven't already, make sure you vote us 5 stars, because do you know what 5 stars does to us, Jack?
It makes us bigger, and then we can be very big.
It puts us up on that chart, on that leaderboard for comedy history podcasts, and the higher we are, the more podcasts we can make. So we love you all. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you all learned about the formation of the German Empire today and kind of what the German state is and how it came about. we'll probably cover some deeper levels of kind of 1930s, 1940s Germany at some point. It's a bit of hot and heavy subject, so we're not going to kind of sling that in on the end of something else. That will probably be only talking about that, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to go, oh, yeah, and then, by the way, the Nazis showed up and they did all this at the end of a podcast where we talk about, Germany. So we'll talk about that at some point, but if you're interested in that, let me know. Where can they find you, Jack?
You can find me everywhere. It's just AO Jack with 2 A's on Twitter, on Twitch, on YouTube, on fucking MySpace, I guess.
And you can find me on Twitter under John Real Talk as well. All right. We love you guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. Kisses. Love you.
It. 10 episodes.
Wait, it's more than 10, Jack.
10 episodes. We did it.
I'm over this.